He was running for his life, blood on his hands, branches tearing at his shirt, while a racist couple screamed through a bullhorn, "We got a rope just for you, boy." Welcome, this is Justice Over Hate, and here, the truth always wins. Hit that subscribe button and comment where you're watching from, because this story, it's not just about a threat. It's about a man who turned a noose into national justice and exposed the silent racism hiding in plain sight. Andre Cole stepped off the Greyhound bus into the thick summer air of Chesterville, Georgia, with a sleek leather bag over his shoulder and the confident gait of a man used to walking into boardrooms where he often stood out. He had been here before, not to this town, not to this specific project, but to spaces like this. Unfamiliar, quietly hostile, smiling just enough to keep things polite. The street was empty except for a couple of pickup trucks with faded Confederate flag bumper stickers and a young white boy on a bike who slowed down to stare, eyes wide with curiosity or confusion. Andre ignored him and checked his phone. No signal. Welcome to the South. His first stop was Millie's Diner, the only open place near the construction site. The bell above the door jingled as he walked in. Inside, ceiling fans turned lazily, circulating air that smelled like fried pork and bleach. A few white men in overalls sat near the window. Conversations dropped into silence the moment they saw him. Andre smiled lightly and nodded. Morning. The waitress, mid-50s, blonde bun, lips permanently set into a line, glanced at him, then looked right past him. He waited. A young couple walked in behind him and she lit up. "Hey y'all, come on in, sit wherever." He waited a moment longer before clearing his throat. "Excuse me, miss, can I get a seat?" She blinked. "You here for the highway crew?" "No," Andre replied, keeping his tone measured. "I'm the project manager for the Ridgeview development." That changed nothing in her face. "You can sit at the counter." He did. He ordered coffee, eggs, and toast. She wrote it down, barely looking at him. As he waited, the waitress served 3 tables, including the couple who arrived after him. His food came last. Cold eggs, burnt toast. When she finally placed the plate in front of him, she muttered, "Here you go, boy." Andre froze. For a half-second, he thought he heard wrong. Then he saw the smirk on the face of one of the men by the window, gray-haired, trucker cap tilted back, staring directly at him. He didn't respond. Not yet. His jaw tightened, and he let the moment hang in the air. But inside, something shifted. A line drawn, a threshold quietly crossed. Back outside, the sky was white-hot. The Ridgeview site was only a half-mile from town, surrounded by pine trees and dry red clay. The land stretched wide, the kind of place that looked untouched but had a history soaked deep into its soil. Andre walked the perimeter, clipboard in hand. Excavators were idle, workers standing in groups with cigarettes and half-lidded eyes. He introduced himself, firm handshake, direct eye contact, standard protocol. Some nodded, said morning. Others didn't say a word. He laid out the day's schedule, blueprint in hand. Safety briefings, trenching plans, equipment delivery times. When he finished, a foreman named Carter spat a wad of tobacco and said, "We'll wait for Jake to confirm." Andre looked at him. "Jake is my junior engineer. I'm the lead on this site." Carter shrugged, grinning. "Sure, but Jake's local. Folks here know him. No offense, just how we do things." Jake, a pale, red-headed recent college grad, stood awkwardly nearby, clearly uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, Andre's in charge." Carter chuckled. "Right." Andre didn't argue. Not yet. He took notes. Logged names. Watched. The patterns were forming already. Obedience depended on skin tone. Mid-afternoon, he walked behind the portable toilets near the back lot to check on a drainage marker. That's when he saw it. A noose. Not a real one. Chalk, hand-drawn on the concrete wall in a lazy loop. But unmistakable. 3 lines underneath it. "Watch your step." Andre froze. The forest behind him went quiet. Even the insects seemed to pause. He stood there for a long moment. It could have been a joke, someone might say. A prank. But jokes weren't drawn like this. Jokes didn't reference murder by lynching. Jokes didn't turn your stomach cold. He took a photo with his phone. The chalk was fresh. No footprints nearby. By the time he returned to the main site, The sun was dipping low, casting long orange shadows over the half-dug foundation. He didn't tell anyone. Not yet. He wanted to be sure who was behind it, and what the silence would say. Later that evening, at the small rental home arranged by the firm, Andre unpacked slowly. Clean white walls, beige carpet, standard-issue furniture. The kind of space meant to feel temporary. He sat on the edge of the bed and checked his messages. One from his mom, one from his sister. He didn't reply to either. What was he gonna say? "Hey, mama. I walked into another nice town, and they served me racism with my eggs." Outside the window, the pine trees swayed in the breeze. That was when he first noticed the couple standing by the fence across the road. Watching. The man wore denim overalls. The woman, a faded dress and a wide-brimmed straw hat. Both white. Both motionless. He closed the blinds. The next morning, they were gone. By the end of the week, he learned their names. Eli and Martha Rayburn. Landowners. Influential. They'd sold the plot to Ridgeview. According to locals, they still looked after everything in Chesterville, whether it was theirs or not. Andre first met them at a council meeting held in the town's church annex. He'd arrived early. They'd arrived late, walked straight past him, shook everyone else's hand, and took the 2 seats furthest from his. During the meeting, as he presented site updates, budget plans, and community impact numbers, he noticed Eli staring. Not at the charts. Not at the screen. At him. When Andre opened the floor for questions, Martha raised her hand. "Is it true," she asked, voice sweet as honey, "that your company overlooked a qualified local for this position?" Andre blinked. All hires were based on merit and experience. "I'm leading this project based on qualifications." Martha smiled thinly. "Of course, but some of us just don't like strangers making decisions about our land." Eli leaned forward, voice rough. "We built this town. People around here still remember the old ways. We don't like people coming in and trying to run things they don't understand." Andre held his gaze. "What I understand is how to build. That's why I'm here." Eli smirked. "We'll see how long that lasts." The meeting adjourned. People filed out. Some nodded politely to Andre. Some didn't. That night, back at his rental, his front porch light flickered off. Then on. Then off again. The silence around him felt different now. He could feel the line tightening, not just around the job, but around him. Andre's phone buzzed just after sunrise. Another delivery delay. That made the 3rd in a week. Lumber that should have arrived Monday was now rerouted through a town 2 hours north. No one could explain why. And nobody seemed in a hurry to fix it. He drove to the site anyway. The red clay beneath his boots was drying into crusty ridges, cracked like old paint. Workers stood around, sipping from thermos cups, leaning against idle machinery. He walked the perimeter with his clipboard in hand, ticking through safety checks and tasks that would never be completed if the shipments didn't start arriving on time. He approached Carter, the foreman, again. "We need that foundation trench inspected and cleared before concrete," Andre said. "If it rains again, we'll lose a week." Carter didn't even look up from his coffee. "Without the lumber, we ain't moving. Ain't no sense rushing." "You can prep the trench. Rebar's already on site." Carter glanced up. "Didn't hear no one ask for your opinion, boss." Andre stood still. "This isn't an opinion. It's a directive. You're being paid to keep this moving." The 2 men locked eyes. Carter's jaw tightened. One of the laborers behind him muttered something low and laughing. Another flicked his cigarette to the ground and didn't bother to stomp it out. Andre walked away. His chest burned. It was too early in the day to be this angry, but he swallowed it down. Again. Like always. Later that afternoon, he met with the site's financial controller inside the small prefab office on the edge of the lot. A white man named Greg, clean-shaven, khaki slacks, a voice always said at half volume. "They're stonewalling you. Greg said quietly, glancing toward the tinted window. "Some of them are related to the Rayburns. Others just take their cues." Andre nodded. "I figured." "I've heard talk," Greg added, "that they're hoping you'll leave. Saying they'll run you out clean." Andre raised an eyebrow. "That a threat?" Greg paled slightly. "Just letting you know." He left the office with the sun at a cruel angle, burning through his shirt. As he passed the porta-johns again, he noticed something new on the wall behind them. A chain, real, rusted, had been nailed crudely to the side of the shed, hanging down like it had been left there for a purpose. At the bottom, a laminated inspection tag fluttered in the wind. But it wasn't an inspection notice. It was a piece of lined notebook paper. Written, in faded ink, "Leave before we remember how we used to deal with people like you." Andre stared. The paper moved gently, caught in the breeze like a whisper. He didn't move for a full minute, just stood there with the hum of cicadas rising behind him, the sweat cooling under his collar. Every muscle in his back went tight. His mind raced. Had anyone seen it? Would anyone admit to it? Would anyone care? Kara. He took a photo. Then another. Then slowly removed the chain and paper with gloved hands, folded the note. Kept it. The office phone rang when he returned. His boss, Roderick Mason, was on the line. The man's voice was professional but distant, as always. "Got your email, Andre. About the symbol on site. We'll log it. Talk to legal. In the meantime, maybe dial back the press on equity. Try not to stir things up." "Are you asking me to let it go?" "I'm asking you to play the long game. Finish the project. Get the win." Andre pressed his lips together until they hurt. Understood. After dark, he drove the perimeter road that wound through the woods on the far side of the site. He needed to think. The trees there were older than the rest, tall, with high canopies and bark thick as armor. The road was narrow, just one lane, with a gravel shoulder that disappeared into shadows. That's when he saw the headlights behind him. A truck. No plates. It crept closer but didn't pass. Andre sped up slightly. The truck matched his pace. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. He didn't want to panic. Not yet. He signaled right, pulling to the side. The truck didn't pass. It stopped. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, broad, hat shadowing his face. Andre didn't move. The hairs on the back of his neck lifted. Then came the voice. "You're not from here." Andre recognized it. Eli Rayburn. "You're trespassing," Andre said. Window still rolled up. Eli stepped closer, just enough to be seen under the truck's headlights. "This road?" "It runs through my property," he said. "Always has. I just never had to put up a fence, until now." Andre opened his door slowly, standing tall. "This road was cleared under the county easement agreement. You sold the land. You know that," Eli smirked. "Doesn't mean I sold the soul of it." They stood there in silence. The trees around them swayed, the pine needles brushing like whispers. Eli's voice dropped. "This land," he said, eyes cold, "used to hang men who didn't know their place." Andre didn't blink. "You should leave." Eli chuckled, slow and deep. "I'm not the one out of place." He turned and walked back to his truck. Slammed the door. The engine roared. Gravel spat out as he reversed sharply and sped off into the darkness. Andre stood still long after the lights vanished. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Martha Rayburn showed up at the site. She didn't speak to Andre. She just stood near the tool shed, smiling and chatting with Carter and two other workers. Occasionally, she looked over at Andre and nodded sweetly. Andre walked over. "Can I help you?" Martha turned. "Oh, no, dear. Just visiting, checking on the progress. I like to stay involved." "You're not authorized to be on site. Safety protocol." Her smile tightened. "You should relax, Mr. Cole. We're just making sure things stay on track." He didn't respond. She leaned forward slightly. You know, this town has a rhythm, a certain way of doing things. Outsiders don't usually last too long. Her voice was low, syrupy. But don't take it personal. He stepped forward until there were only inches between them. I'm not here to be tolerated. I'm here to finish this job. And you're in the way. Her face twitched. Just for a moment. Then the smile returned. We'll see how long that attitude keeps you safe. She turned and walked away. Carter and the others followed her like dogs off leash. Andre stood still, heat crawling up his spine. He called the company's HR and reported the interaction. They said they'd look into it. He knew what that meant. By evening he was driving home when he noticed something strange. The light at the end of his driveway was out. He pulled up slow, rolled to a stop. There was something on his porch. At first he thought it was just a package. Then he saw the rope. A noose. This one wasn't chalk. It wasn't a joke. It was real. Rough. Thick, coiled and tied with expertise, lying dead center on his welcome mat like a message. His throat closed. He didn't touch it. He didn't move. He backed away. Dialed 911. They came 20 minutes later. Sheriff Huxley. Mid-50s. Wide belt buckle. Sunglasses even at night. He looked at the rope. Scribbled a few notes. Could have been kids, he said. Andre laughed, incredulous. Kids? That's what we're going with? Hard to prove who left it. Ain't a crime to own rope. Andre didn't say anything. The officer didn't ask him inside. Didn't ask how he was. Didn't offer protection. He just tipped his hat and walked off. Andre watched the cruiser disappear. He stood on the porch, the noose still lying there at his feet. He picked it up slowly, ran his fingers over the rough fiber, then carried it inside, and locked every door behind him. 20 minutes before sunrise, Andre Cole stood in front of the mirror, buttoning his shirt with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. He hadn't slept. Not really. His body had lain still in bed, but his mind had never settled. The rope on the porch haunted him, not just because of what it symbolized, but because no one, not the sheriff, not his firm, not a single worker, had treated it like it meant anything. He stared at himself now, eyes rimmed red, jaw clenched, heart thrumming somewhere beneath his ribcage like a distant drum. Something in his gut told him it was time to leave, not out of fear, but because nothing was going to change unless he made it change. And staying here, trying to prove something, was going to get him killed. He packed fast. Laptop, project files, hard drives with plans and documentation, the folder with photos of the chalk noose, the chain, the threats. All of it went into the satchel. Then, clothes. Phone charger. His keys jingled in his hand as he stepped outside into the cool, misty morning. The woods around the house were hushed, too quiet for even the birds. He slid into his SUV, started the engine, and exhaled slowly. The screen blinked to life. GPS lit up. One route, north, toward Atlanta. A 3-hour drive. He would go straight to the regional office. Make them hear him. He backed out of the driveway. That's when he saw it. Headlights, just over the rise, at the edge of the gravel road. A truck. It wasn't moving. Andre paused, one foot on the brake. A second passed. Then another. The truck's lights blinked off. The gravel crunched. It was coming toward him. Fast. Andre slammed the gear into drive and floored it. His tires spun in the gravel, caught, then kicked up dust as he accelerated. The truck behind him roared to life. Bigger engine, wider frame, and closed the distance in seconds. He turned sharply onto the main road, tires shrieking. The truck followed. It was a dark blue Ford. No license plates. The same one from before. He didn't have to see the driver to know who it was. Eli and Martha. The road ahead narrowed, flanked by dense pine woods and shallow ditches on either side. Andre's heart pounded in his chest. The truck's high beams flooded his mirrors, blinding him. He swerved slightly but kept control. Sweat ran down his back. Then a horn, long and low. From behind him, A voice shouted, through a speaker? He couldn't tell. "Turn around, boy! You don't leave on your own, we make you leave." Andre didn't look back. His eyes scanned the road for turns, exits, anything. A deer darted across the road. He swerved hard, just missed it. The truck kept coming. "Pull over!" another shout. He pushed harder on the gas, but the road began to curve, narrowing as it wound deeper into the woods. The GPS recalculated. Route off course. He was being herded. They weren't chasing him. They were steering him. The truck rammed his bumper, once, then again. The sound of crunching metal filled his ears. The SUV skidded briefly, but he steadied it. Then the horn again. "We got a rope with your name on it, Project Man." He nearly vomited. Trees blurred past in a tunnel of shadow. The early light barely reached the forest floor. This wasn't a road anyone traveled. No lights, no signs, just gravel and bark and fear. Then the truck surged again, ramming harder. Andre's car fishtailed. He lost control. His SUV veered sharply right and slammed into a ditch with a violent thud. The airbags exploded, knocking the breath from his lungs. Smoke hissed from the hood. Everything went quiet. For a moment, he couldn't move. His ears rang. Chest heaved. Then, doors slamming. Footsteps. Laughter. "You still breathing, city boy?" Eli's voice called out, distant but close enough to curdle the air. Andre forced himself upright. Blood trickled from his temple. His legs screamed, but it wasn't broken. He grabbed his bag, documents still inside, and shoved open the door. He fell into the weeds but pulled himself up. Then he ran into the woods. The pine trees swallowed him whole. Branches whipped at his arms. Thorns snagged his pants. He didn't care. Behind him, Eli shouted, "Run then! We'll hunt you like the dogs you think we are." Martha laughed, a shrill, awful sound. "Go on now. Go be the hero in your little city story." Andre pushed through brush, dodged low-hanging limbs, lungs aching with every breath. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he had to disappear. He spotted a narrow game trail. Turned. Behind him, flashlights bobbed. "We got a rope just for you, Project Man!" Eli howled again. Andre found a gully and slid down, using tree roots to lower himself without falling. His shirt was soaked with sweat and blood. His vision blurred. He tripped, fell into mud. His bag hit the ground, spilling some of the papers. He scrambled to gather them, fingers trembling, then froze. Something was glowing in the distance. A radio tower. Not far. Maybe half a mile. If he could climb it. He bolted again, lungs burning. The voices behind him grew louder. Branches snapped. Twigs cracked. They were close. He broke through the tree line and saw the red blinking lights above him, maybe 60 feet tall. It looked ancient, rusted, but still functioning. A metal ladder ran up the side. He didn't stop to think. He dropped the bag at the base and began to climb. His hands slipped twice, his knuckles tore open. But he climbed. Higher. The trees spread below him like a dark ocean. When he reached the top, he found the power box. He yanked it open and flipped the emergency signal, a high-frequency beacon used for weather or fire alerts. A piercing siren rang out into the air. For the first time in hours, he allowed himself to breathe. Below him, movement. Flashlights, but they didn't climb. Eli shouted, angry and wild, "You think they're coming to save you? Ain't nobody coming. Nobody gives a damn about you, boy." Andre didn't answer. He pressed his back against the steel frame of the tower and let the siren scream into the dawn. Minutes passed. Then he saw it. Blue lights. Sirens. Far off. Still a mile away, but real. Coming. The voices below went silent. Andre watched as Eli and Martha turned and ran, their flashlights disappearing into the woods. When the officers arrived, they found Andre clinging to the tower with blood on his face and sweat in his eyes. But he was still standing. Andre blinked against the flashing red and blue lights as paramedics lowered him from the tower. His hands were shaking uncontrollably. His shirt was ripped open down one side, blood drying where the seatbelt had cut into him during the crash. His mouth was dry, cracked at the corners. He barely heard the questions being asked: name, age, emergency contact. He sat on the edge of the open ambulance door wrapped in a gray blanket, his bag resting at his feet. The documents inside were damp, the edges bent and torn from the chase. Still, he clutched the folder tightly. It was the only evidence he had left. 2 officers stood nearby speaking in hushed tones. Neither approached him. A young EMT offered him water. He drank it in small sips. The officer finally came over, Deputy Latham. Slim, stubbled jaw, aviator sunglasses perched on his forehead. He held a notepad like it was a formality. "Mr. Cole, we got your distress call. You were chased? By whom?" Andre didn't answer immediately. He glanced toward the tree line, half expecting those flashlights to reappear. But the woods remained still. "It was Eli and Martha Rayburn," he said hoarsely. "They tried to run me off the road. They chased me through the forest. They threatened to hang me." The deputy's brows rose. "Hang you?" Andre stared. "They've been threatening me for weeks. I have documentation. I've made complaints. The rope on my porch, the chain, the messages." Latham flipped a page in his notebook, not writing anything down. "Any witnesses?" Andre opened his mouth, then shut it. No one would speak up. Carter wouldn't. Greg wouldn't. Jake was too young and too scared. Andre was alone. "I have photos," he said instead. "Recordings. One of them used a speaker during the chase. They said they had a rope with my name on it." The deputy finally wrote something. "Okay, we'll take a look. But there's no sign of them now. No truck. No weapons. You sure it wasn't just a misunderstanding?" Andre almost laughed, but it caught in his throat. "Misunderstanding? I ran for my life." Latham didn't respond. He tapped the pen against the notepad. "We'll file a report. Just don't go making accusations we can't prove." He turned and walked back toward the patrol car. Andre sat there, stunned. The ambulance doors closed. The medic leaned in. "We're taking you in for a scan. You might have a concussion." The hospital was cold. White lights, white sheets, white walls. Andre lay under a thin blanket, staring at the ceiling tiles. The sounds of beeping monitors echoed around him. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Texts, calls, notifications. But he didn't reach for it. He didn't feel safe. Not even here. Later, a nurse entered with discharge papers. "You're cleared to go. No internal injuries, but you need rest." "That's trauma, Mr. Cole." He nodded. When he finally checked his phone, he saw the headlines. "Engineer hospitalized after rural Georgia incident." "Police investigate altercation between project manager and elderly couple." "Local landowners deny involvement in alleged chase." They had flipped it. The media painted him as aggressive, confrontational, possibly confused. An engineer who had a tense relationship with the town. No mention of the noose. No mention of the siren. No mention of the rope. He wanted to scream. Instead, he called the firm. Roderick's voice was clipped. "We've seen the reports. Legal says keep quiet for now." "I was hunted," Andre said slowly. "They tried to kill me. I know you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm traumatized." There was a long silence. Roderick sighed. "Look, Andre, this is complicated. There's pressure from investors. The Rayburns are well connected. This development." Andre hung up. He sat in silence for a long time. Then, almost on instinct, he searched his email inbox and found a message from weeks ago. A young journalist had reached out after one of his community meetings. Her name was Nia Jefferson, 29, based in Atlanta, known for her hard-hitting investigative reporting. She had asked to shadow the Ridgeview project and do a feature on inclusive infrastructure. Andre had ignored it at the time. He clicked, reply. Subject, Chesterville incident. "I need to talk." Nia called him within the hour. Her voice was calm, measured, but her tone sharpened as he explained what happened. "They threatened to hang you?" "Yes." "They chased you through the woods?" "Yes." "You have proof?" "I have recordings. Photos." I filed internal complaints. They ignored me. I'll be there tomorrow, she said. Don't talk to anyone else. The next day, Nia arrived in Chesterville with a small film crew, a legal observer, and a notebook filled with questions. She interviewed Andre in his rented house, beside the broken porch light and the bloodied SUV. She asked the questions no one else had. She published the piece within 48 hours. Headline: They chased him like it was 1955. One black man's escape from a town that tried to erase him. The story went viral. Within hours, Andre's phone was overwhelmed with texts, calls, media requests. Celebrities tweeted it. Activists picked it up. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Justice for Andre. Hashtag Rayburn Rundown. Hashtag Modern Lynching. The mayor of Chesterville issued a bland statement calling the incident regrettable. The sheriff's department refused to comment. But the world was watching now. The firm called again. We didn't know it was this serious, Roderick said. We stand with you, Andre. Andre didn't say anything. He let the silence stretch. Later that week, a community protest gathered in front of City Hall. Andre watched from across the street, leaning against a light pole capped low over his eyes. Young and old, black and white, holding signs. We believe Andre. No more shadows. Not just a misunderstanding. He felt something shift inside him. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. He gave one interview. Just one. Nia filmed him in a small studio, sitting against a black backdrop. I wasn't chased because I did something wrong, he said. I was chased because I refused to shrink. His voice cracked. They wanted to hang me. Not just with a rope, but with silence, with disbelief, with the idea that someone like me doesn't belong. He looked into the camera. But I do belong. And I'm not going anywhere. The clip aired nationally, and for the first time, the world truly heard him. The courtroom wasn't packed, but the cameras made it feel full. News vans lined the street outside Chesterville's municipal building, their satellite dishes pointed toward the heavens like they were trying to transmit what this town had buried for decades. Inside, Andre Cole sat 3 rows back in a navy suit, hands clasped tightly in his lap. His fingers still bore faint scars from the night he ran for his life. The legal team beside him whispered updates, but his eyes were locked on the 2 figures at the front of the room, Eli and Martha Rayburn. They looked older than they had during the chase. Martha's hair, once a neat bun, now hung limp over her shoulders. Eli's face had lost its color. But they didn't look sorry. They looked insulted. The hearing wasn't criminal yet. This was a civil review by the State Equity Commission, convened because of overwhelming public pressure after Nia Jefferson's report and the national outcry that followed. But it was public. It was televised. And it was beginning to crack the shell of Chesterville's polite, practiced silence. The commission chair, a black woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and the weight of 1,000 similar stories in her eyes, called the room to order. They reviewed the timeline, the harassment, the threats, the documents, the chase, the evidence. Andre had documented everything: the chalk noose, the chain, the messages, the broken window, the near-fatal pursuit through the woods. It was all there now, laid out not just for a judge, but for the country. Eli's defense lawyer tried to object repeatedly. Speculation, emotionally charged language, no proof of intent. But the facts painted their own picture. When Andre finally took the stand, the room fell silent. He adjusted the microphone. "My name is Andre Cole," he began, voice steady. "I was hired to oversee the Ridgeview Eco-Development Project here in Chesterville. I came to do a job. Nothing more, nothing less." He paused. "But from the moment I stepped off that bus, I was seen as a problem. Not a professional, not a guest, not a leader. Just a black man in a place that didn't want to be reminded of its own history." He took a breath. "The Rayburns didn't just oppose my presence. They hunted me. They used fear as a weapon. They used silence as cover. And when I tried to walk away, they tried to make sure I didn't walk at all." He blinked hard. I will never forget what it felt like to run through those woods with a bag full of blueprints and blood in my eyes, wondering if anyone would care if I didn't make it out. There was a pause. The kind of silence that carries weight. They didn't hang me, Andre said. But they wanted to. Not just with rope, but with humiliation. With power. With erasure. That's what this was about. He stepped down to a quiet wave of gasps and murmurs. That night, the hearing footage aired on every major news outlet. The next morning, the Ridgeview Corporation announced they were terminating all ties with the Rayburns. They issued a formal apology to Andre, donated $1.5 million to civil rights groups, and renamed the Ridgeview Project entirely. In an email marked urgent, the firm's board extended an offer to Andre, a national leadership role focused on diversity reform and racial safety across every construction project in their portfolio. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he returned to Chesterville one final time. The construction site looked different now, flooded with new workers, new management, and a much different tone. Someone had painted over the graffiti. Someone had planted flags where the foundation would soon rise. Andre walked the perimeter slowly. The sun was high. The same pine trees that had once shadowed him during the chase now stood quiet and unmoving. He stopped by the trailer where he had once been ignored, dismissed, mocked. In the distance, the old Rayburn estate sat silent, empty. The lawsuits had cost them nearly everything. Still, Andre didn't feel victorious. He felt changed. A soft voice called his name. He turned to see Nia Jefferson approaching, camera in hand. "They're dedicating it to you," she said. "What?" "The new name. The project. They're calling it the Cole Center for Justice and Innovation. You didn't know?" Andre smiled faintly. "They must have forgotten to CC me." Nia laughed. Then her smile faded. "You okay?" He thought for a long time before answering. "No," he said finally, "but I'm not broken." She nodded. "That's enough." Later that week, Andre returned to Atlanta. He sat across from the board in a glass-walled conference room. Suit clean, posture straight. They repeated their offer. He listened. Then he stood. "I'll accept," he said. "But I'm not a symbol. I'm not your apology. If I'm doing this, I'm building more than policies. I'm building protection." They agreed. Over the following months, Andre traveled state to state, speaking to architects, engineers, interns, students. He shared his story not as a tragedy, but as a warning. A call to vigilance. A blueprint for accountability. The Rayburns never faced jail time, but they were stripped of power, stripped of reputation, and finally forced into public disgrace. Andre didn't need them behind bars. He just needed them gone. He stood one day before a class of future engineers at Howard University, the sun streaking in through wide windows. He held up the chain. "This," he said, "was left on my car windshield." He held up the photo of the noose. "This was drawn to scare me off the land I was sent to build on." Then he held up a final image of the completed Ridgeview development, now gleaming under the Georgia sun. The words, "The Cole Center," carved in bold steel letters at the front gate. "But this," he said, "is what we build when we don't run." The room stood in silence. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole room. Andre looked out over the sea of young faces, each one carrying stories of their own. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had not just survived. He had transformed. Thank you for watching. But before you go, ask yourself this. What would you have done if it were you being chased through the woods with a noose waiting at the end? If that gave you chills. Hit subscribe. Because Justice Over Hate brings you real stories they don't want you to hear. And don't forget, your comment could be the one that sparks change.